Hello everyone, and welcome to the Anti-News Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Grasso, and thank you for tuning in. Today's date is March 22nd, and as always, I've got 5 happy stories for you. First, we have coral reefs recovering after a hurricane, an endangered animal being bred in captivity for the first time, and 2 men looking after animals that others left behind. After the music break, a non-profit makes homes for the homeless, and a moving company takes food that people no longer want and gives it to those in need. Back in 2016, Tropical Cyclone Winston struck Fiji, destroying coral reefs along the archipelagos Namena Reserve and Batu Ira. As many may already know, coral reefs provide food and shelter for many sea critters, but are delicate as well. Pollution has caused many to get sick, and things such as dredging and boat anchors have caused physical damage. When this happens, it's hard for them to recover, but as seen here, it is possible. A recent diving expedition made by the Wildlife Conservation Society has shown that 4 years after the cyclone, the reefs are recovering. Not only have young coral colonies been found, but tons of fish have returned, even to areas that aren't fully recovered yet. The Society is working with Fiji locals to help revive these areas further, primarily with no-take areas, which cover large portions of these reefs. These areas are marked with tambo, pillars covered with barnacles, which designate an area as being off-limits to anyone. Traditionally, this would be done for 100 days after a chief's passing, but the plan is to make these tambo permanent, as to give the reefs a better chance at recovering. People often think of coral reefs as something that, once damaged, can never recover, but that's simply not the case. Given enough time and enough room to breathe, it can recover from almost anything. This applies to a lot of things, but it's still best to avoid causing that damage in the first place. Cyclones are unavoidable, but being mindful of our actions and their consequences can save everyone, not just the coral reefs, from a lot of pain. For all of our advancements, there are some things that simply won't cooperate with us. For example, some species of animals just don't want to breed in captivity. The most famous of these is the giant panda, but cheetahs, northern white rhinos, and whooping cranes are all notoriously hard to breed in zoos. Usually, it has something to do either with their age, stress, or lack of knowledge, but in the case of the critically endangered Harlequin toad, it was a lack of proper environment. Scientists hopped to it though, and have finally gotten the setting just right for them. After years of work, herpetologists at Manchester Museum have successfully gotten a pair of Harlequin toads to mate. Given the rarity of the species and the difficulty of studying them, it's no wonder why it took so long to figure out the specific conditions in which these toads laid their eggs. What are these specific conditions, you may ask? Turbulent streams filled with boulders and stones of a certain temperature and moisture level in the air, and bathed in a certain spectrum of light that allows for the growth of a tropical algae which the tadpoles eat while they're young. Picky eaters have got nothing on these toads. Andrew Gray, curator of herpetology at the Manchester Museum, told The Guardian, "The university is the only institution outside Panama to house these frogs. It's a huge responsibility the team do not take lightly, so we're over the moon we've achieved the first captive breeding of this remarkable species. Our success heralds the next chapter for more innovative amphibian conservation work." Currently, the museum is working to raise funds in several ways, including a Sponsor a Frog program. For £50, or 87 Canadian, you'll get a letter of thank you from the director of Manchester Museum, an A4 color print of a Harlequin toad, a hardback book on frogs and toads of the world, and an invite for you and a friend to go on a personal behind-the-scenes tour of the vivarium given by one of the herpetologists, simply look up the name of the program, sponsor a frog, or use the link in the description. It ain't easy being green, but it is easy to help out an endangered species. On March 11th, 2011, a magnitude 9 undersea earthquake, one of the strongest in human history, started east of the Oshika Peninsula of Tohoku in Japan. The earthquake then caused massive tsunami waves over 130 feet high, killing thousands and causing 3 nuclear reactors in the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant complex to melt down. This was the Fukushima nuclear disaster, which has left the 12.5-mile excursion zone around the site. 160,000 residents were told to evacuate when clouds of radiation started spreading, and many of them left pets and livestock behind. Fortunately for those animals, though, 2 men stayed. Independently of each other, Naoto Matsumura and Saike Kato decided to stay behind despite evacuation orders and the risks to their own health to take care of the animals left behind. Kato takes care of 41 cats, a dog named Pochi, and feeds the wild boars in the area, while Matsumura looks after not only cats and dogs, but also pigs, ponies, ostriches, and cows. Matsumura initially left with everyone else, but returned for his own pets not too long after. When he saw how many were left behind, he decided to stay to take care of them. Some of his family said he couldn't stay with them due to the risk of contamination, and with refugee camps quickly filling up, Matsumura didn't feel like dealing with that or anything else, and so decided to stay where he was. What both men are doing is technically illegal, but despite the police demanding that they leave, neither Kato nor Matsumura are planning on leaving. They've decided to stay, taking care of any and all animals that come their way. The fact that both men, with no idea of what the other was doing, decided to risk their lives to go into an irradiated area to care for those left behind is very admirable and selfless, and shows the better side of humanity. It's a reminder that for every person out there doing something that makes the world worse, there's another doing their best to make things better, even if it puts themselves at risk. While I don't encourage putting yourself in danger unless you have to, I do fully encourage trying to make the world a better place, and I hope all of you can find a way to do so. Music is a good way to do that, so let's go to the music break. That was Promised by Cash. Now on to the last two stories. No matter what walk of life someone is on, the one thing that binds almost all of us together is community. From back in the caveman days, when we depended on each other for survival, to today, where we depend on each other to know we're not alone. No matter what community you're a part of, having other people like you in your life is a great way to stay positive. It can be hard for homeless people to form or become a part of a community, on account of the struggles they have to go through on a day-to-day basis. This nonprofit organization is doing something to help change that. A Minneapolis nonprofit called Avivo has bought an empty warehouse and are building tiny houses inside of it. Each house has 4, 6, or 8 dwellings inside, each of which has a bedroom, a bathroom, and a communal area where people can hang out. The residents also have access to washing and drying machines and are allowed to bring their pets in with them. Free, pre-packaged meals are available, and the warehouse itself has a secure entrance with staff on site at all times. This is part of a 2-year pilot project called the Avivo Village, fittingly enough, to see if an indoor village works, while also trying to get the residents into more permanent housing within 90 days. If the project is successful, it'll continue past the 2-year trial period, which offers a great alternative to homeless shelters. It's also a good way for those who couldn't form a community or join one to find others who can relate to them, and keep in touch with them as well. Humans are social animals, and so building connections with other people is very important, not only for being part of a society, but for our emotional and mental health as well. With any luck, this program will help to create a lot of new communities, big and small. Moving can be stressful. Not only are you leaving for a new place, but you've also got to pack up all of your things too. Knickknacks, furniture, electronics, and whatever else you have all need to go into boxes. With everything that needs to be done, it's no surprise that many people will either throw out or leave behind all the food that they had. This is bad, both because it's wasting what's otherwise perfectly good, but also because the non-perishables could have gone to food banks or charities. With so much on their minds already, though, most people don't consider that. However, one moving company has. Adam Lowy worked for his family's moving company, and during that time he noticed how many people who were moving would throw out or leave behind many things, including non-perishable foods. Seeing all of this perfectly good food going to waste upset him, and so he started asking people one simple question: do you want to donate your food when you move? And thus, Move for Hunger was born. Move for Hunger is a non-profit that fights hunger and reduces food waste by taking food that people who are moving would throw out, and instead taking it to food banks where it can help those in need. Essentially, we're bringing a food drive into people's living rooms every day, Lowy said. Since its founding in 2009, Move for Hunger has provided more than 17 million meals to those in need, and works in both Canada and the States to help even more people and provide even more meals. Whether it's food, clothing, or furniture, instead of throwing it away, donate the things that you no longer need or want. To someone else, it could make a world of difference and help them get through hard times. If you can't donate it, then try to find ways to make use of it in some other way, like turning old clothes into washing cloths or starting a compost bin. Here's today's advice. If you've ever looked at something you did in the past and found yourself cringing, that just means that you've grown as a person. It doesn't mean that what you did when you were younger is bad, just that you've changed and have learned from it, which helped shape the person you are today. That's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's all try to enjoy spring and everything it brings with it as much as we can. If you would like to support this podcast, you can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Google and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spreaker. Links can be found in the description, and until next time, remember that there is still some good in the world, you just gotta look for it. Take care out there, everyone.